You ever see a movie with so much potential to be great, but it just, like, never gets there? Don't worry, darling, is what happens when a good idea gets held back by plot holes and a story that lacked direction, leaving its mark as the most
dumpster fire movie of the year.
But what if we gave it a second chance? Comb through the plot holes and literally rewrite the story to what it could have been. But take it a step further, write an ending that completely changes the original message of incel culture to something more historically fitting for the 1950s and beyond. Let's give this movie a take two. Starting with... Sometimes, movies don't care to explain things, and honestly, that's fine. Such as, why does a place that's primarily sunny all year round have homes with fireplaces? Granted, that is pretty small and nitpicky, but that's just one of the other blaring plot holes that work against this movie in its original form. But that's where we come in our rewrite for our improved ending. Now, let's rip the band-aid off. Spoilers, obviously, if you haven't seen the movie, but the plot twist is that the entire town of Victory is a simulation. A way for men to entrap and fully control women in the way that they see fit. Which is an interesting premise, but the movie doesn't quite make sense as to the rest of the people in Victory. Outside of the men who work and the women who stay at home and work domestically, Victory is still a town after all. We never really see the women farm for their food, and they frequent the mall together. If the town was all one simulation, who are the people that work in Victory? The janitors, the cashiers, even the trolley driver that Alice briefly interacts with. Are they all fabricated like the food, or real people who enter hypnosis just to do menial labor? The shift in our ending is that we want them to be regular laborers who happen to live in the town of Victory, but more on that later. The following plot hole is centered on the question of pregnancy during mind control. Peg is pregnant, and at one point Jack tells Alice he thinks they should try for a baby. But like, how? Were the two women going to give birth in a simulation? Could the men create an entirely fake baby in their world? Even in the case of Bunny, who was in Victory by choice as a way to have more time with her dead children, how could those children have ever grown up? Or was this more of a Peter Pan situation? Lastly, and we thought about this immediately upon exiting the movie theater, didn't people in the real modern world notice that Alice was missing? In the short clip of her life that we see, we know that she works in a hospital. Are you telling me that none of the staff called into question where their colleague went? Her family, friends, community didn't notice that Alice has been gone, and no one decided to question the real life Jack? And the biggest question of all, what do the men actually do for work? Thankfully, there are answers to these unattended plot holes, just if the story took a darker, more sinister twist than mind control. We begin the premise untouched in Act 1. Imagine this. It's the 1950s and you're living in a community that seems perfect in a town called Victory. We follow the story of our protagonist, Alice, played by Florence Pugh, a housewife with a killer wardrobe, and the men who apparently go to work, but doing what exactly? We, the audience, and the women do not know. Alice and the other women continue with their days and are repeatedly warned not to go anywhere near where the men go for their jobs. And as this act goes along, she continues to gain an increasing sense that something's not right. Not a bad premise at all. But let's go on to Act 2 to see what we can tweak. In Act 2, Victory's only black female resident, Margaret, claims at a work party that everything is a lie. Margaret, still distressed as the men attempt to keep her subdued, screams, "Everyone at this party will one day be punished." Alice, though shocked, ignores her, as do the others, blissfully returning to their lives of fun and glamour. Where in the original film, Alice sees a plane crash from the window of a tram one day, in its place, on the outskirts of town, beyond the confines of her usual trek, Alice once again stays on the trolley, but this time, she sees a tattered poster of Margaret and her husband's face marked in red reading, "Betrayers of their own kind. They deserve to be killed for their part in what the men do." Shortly after, Alice gets word that Margaret committed suicide, and Alice begins to spiral, prompting Victory's sole doctor to visit and give her medications that she accepts, but secretly does not take. The pit in Alice's stomach grows as she comes to terms that the world she so happily lives in isn't as perfect as it seems. Until now, the movie has remained relatively the same, just with a couple tweaks. But let's give it the ending that makes the movie that much better. The original spoiler at the end of this film is that Alice finds out that she has been under mind control by her boyfriend Jack. Her real life has been stolen from her. Jack is tempted to control Alice after becoming obsessed with an all-men cult of the Victory Project. When Alice uncovers this deception and Jack tries to trap her within the simulation, she takes matters into her own hands, ultimately killing him and fleeing from the enforcers of Victory. Through her actions, Alice breaks free from the confines of the artificial world, returning to her true reality as a widow of her own making. Now, let's take the notion of revealing an ugly truth, the central message of the film, to another level. One that we're not sure Olivia Wilde has ever thought to consider for herself. Because, well, you'll see. Let's pretend the film stays grounded in real history. No simulation, no brain implants. Just good old-fashioned secrecy and structural oppression. Alice, determined to uncover the truth, follows Jack to work one day. She sneaks in. She hides behind boxes. And what she sees is horrifying. Inside the Victory facility is a massive 2-level factory. Black, indigenous, and Latino men are lined up, hunched over. Their backs are bleeding, whipped raw. They're picking corn kernels by hand off the floor. Jack's job as a newly promoted supervisor to ensure they never slow down, lashing streaks of blood as the whip rips their skin open beneath him. Alice runs home to Bunny, and Bunny, cold, resigned, tells her she already knew. Bunny warns Alice of the dire consequences of exposing this ugly truth. The very foundation of their society will crumble, condemning them to the same fate as Margaret. When Jack returns, Alice confronts him. Jack says she should be grateful. He goes on to justify it. He says that he endures the ugly parts of the world so she can remain pure, protected, unsullied by the blood and the screams. I do this for you, Alice. I beat those men so you can have brunch. Alice says nothing. She smiles and proceeds to make a large meal for her guests. Her husband's new boss and his fellow colleagues with their wives over for dinner. Alice does not last long through the dinner of niceties and chit-chat. She begins to challenge the women and men with uncomfortable questions. Remind me why you never asked your husband what he does for work? Peg, you wouldn't want your baby to ever whip someone, right? Lash them until their back bleeds. Just then, the men begin to protest, but their words slur and their heads droop until they sleep and spill their tainted wine. Everyone but Frank. While the other men crash onto their plates and fall asleep, Frank sputters and chokes on his steak, growing purple in the face. Alice calms the worried women and forces Frank to say it. Admit to the women of Victory that they enslave and torture men for the town to be how it is. Frank admits it. Struggling to breathe with his dying breath, he laughs in Alice's face. Looking at the women and men behind her, his final words, "You can kill me, but you won't be killing the system." Alice tells the women to do what they want with their husbands, but that Victory needed to change. The men in the factory needed to be freed tomorrow. The women are shocked, but not slowly, and drag their husbands into their cars and drive off. The next morning, Alice wakes up. Jack is knocked out next to her. As she exits her home, she sees the women handing their husbands their lunchboxes, giving them a kiss on the cheek, and waving as they wish them a great day at work. She crumbles into herself in disappointment and drives off into the sunset, to somewhere far, far away from Victory, even if it means without anything with her but the clothes on her back. With this ending, Don't Worry Darling delves into the complex interplay of power and complicity that characterizes the role of white women in historical oppression. Yes, Jordan Peele did a little, but it was simply made to be more realistic. The movie wants to be based in a glamorized past? Let it. But it cannot escape that the glamour and idolization in the ways life worked in the past only worked for a select few in history and not everyone. Through Alice's harrowing journey, the film explores the dualities inherent in white women's existence, enjoying the privileges bestowed upon them by their husbands' cruelty and injustice, yet lacking the agency to effect a significant change in society or their own lives. As Alice confronts the horrifying reality of Victory's dark underbelly, she is forced to grapple with the uncomfortable truth that her own comfort and security are built upon the suffering of others. At the heart of the story lies a commentary on the moral complexities of complicity and the insidious ways in which privilege can blind individuals to the suffering of others. Through Alice and Bunny's reckoning with their complicity, the film challenges viewers to confront the uncomfortable truths of their own privilege and complicity in systems of oppression. As the dust settles and the truth of victory's horrors is laid bare, Alice and Bunny stand as stark reminders of the dual roles white women have played throughout history: beneficiaries of privilege and victims of their own lack of agency in the face of injustice. Tell us what you guys think in the comments. Did you like this ending, or could we have made it a bit better? Was there anything that we missed? Or just let us know in the comments what you would have done differently. And subscribe if you believe and are interested in giving movie endings a second chance.